All up to vote.
Good evening, everyone. Can I just remind people, if you've got mobile phones or any mobile device, please turn them off or down so you can interrupt the meeting. Have we got anybody on? Nobody on. Can I just say, when you leave, if you haven't signed in tonight, can you please sign in? Do that when you leave, just so that we've got a record of who's been here, who's attended the meeting. I would just like to introduce from the council, from Swale Borough Council, Larissa Reid, who's Chief Executive here on my right, and Inspector Julia Basingdale, who's here on my left. I'd also just like to welcome both two new councillors, Councillor Karen Pollard and Kieran Mishra sitting there. Welcome to your first area of committee. Hopefully you'll get something from it. Is there anybody here representing any organisations?
Swale Media Arts Centre.
Thank you. And
Russia against.
Nelson Regis Society.
thank you very much.
And I'm coming to support Ken with that, because we go there all the time, don't we? Yes, only you don't.
Thank you for that.
We go there, we don't want it to go.
Can I just, if you want, during the presentations or at any point you want to ask a question, can you just raise your hand so that you can indicate that I'll call you in when needed? It may not flow in the way of the discussion, but I'll note your name down and call you in at some point. If you are viewing online, can you please turn your camera and microphone off if you're not speaking? It's just to, we have problems and issues with the communication link. Thank you. Agenda item 1, emergency evacuation. There's no plans for a fire test tonight, as far as I'm aware. So if the alarm does go off, then the easiest way out is through double doors on the left. Is there anybody who needs any support or help in leaving tonight? If so, can you let me know? Okay, fine, thank you very much. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Simon Clark and Councillor Charlie Miller.
Thank you for that. Any declarations of interest?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Milton British High Street Society and Pecuniary Interest. So I trustee on the company part, also I love the pecuniary interest. I'm also a trustee on the country park.
Yes.
I'm also a member of the Milton Regis Arts and Creative Society.
Agenda item 4, minutes of the last meeting held on 12th of December, minutes number 498 to 506. Are they correct record?
Agreed.
Great.
Agenda item 5, police update. I introduced Inspector Julia Basingdale to give you an update.
Stand up if that's all right. Yeah, hello everyone, my name is Julia and I am Inspector for the Community Safety Unit at Swale Police Station. I've taken over from Ryan Chase, who's moved on to pastures leave, so I've been in place for about 7 weeks now. So the update that I'm going to give you is going to be mainly focused on what I've been doing over the last 7 weeks, so anything much before that, if anyone's got any questions afterwards, I might have to go away and come back to you with answers on that. I'll sort of talk to sort of what I've been doing. Prior to starting at Swale, I worked over at Medway, but I've lived in Swale for 7 years, so sort of not moved to the area. So yes, I've been in post since the 6th of January. So what I'll start doing, I'm going to sort of talk about officer numbers first. before I move on to sort of Swale or Sittingbourne specific. So since I've started, I'm in a bit of recruiting now. One of the Sittingbourne PCs is currently fulfilling an acting sergeant role over in Sheerness, but I've now recruited a full-time Sheerness sergeant, which will now allow me to move her back into Swale, so it will boost our officer numbers back in Swale. I'm also recruiting for another 2 PCs at the moment, and that's ongoing at the moment. Don't anticipate there being too many issues with that, so we should have a full officer capacity in Swale fairly soon. We're also recruiting for a child centre police officer, a team officer as well. We've only got 1 vacancy. Again, that's ongoing at the moment. So hopefully with those 3 new officers, that will class up to suitable capacity with the officers. So since I've arrived in the department, my focus has been on, we've got 2 hotspot areas, one over in Sheerness and one in Sittingbourne Town Centre, which I'm sure you're probably all aware of. So that's sort of my focus, and my continued focus over the next few months is going to be the right coverage of officers in the streets, in the high street. I have had to put a couple of section 34 notices on since I've been in post, which again, it is all well publicised. It's been on Kent Online due to some antisocial behaviour, ongoing antisocial behaviour that we're having. It's not going to be a quick fix, but it's going to be my focus over the next few months. So just to reassure you, so the low level sort of offending or low level sort of use that are told to go home, we are taking their names and addresses, and my expectation is that my child centre policing team will carry out home visits on every single one of those youths that are stopped. And so far that has happened. Any low level offending we are dealing with and has been dealt with by way of community resolutions. We're working with the stores and the shops and the forum to get sort of banning notices in place. But I also appreciate that we need to get some diversionary schemes in place as well, to sort of divert them away from crime or hanging around the high street. I don't know whether any of you are aware that we had the gaming bus over half term. Oh, did you go? It was, we only got it one day. It was fantastic though. It was really, really good. And actually the day that we had it, our calls, various feet went down that day. We could only get it for a day. I've managed to book it again for the Easter holidays and again for the summer. And it actually went down really well, and it was run with Frogdale Trust as well, because it was jointly run. Yeah, so
No, I'm going to say carry on.
Carry on.
I'm putting you in at the end of the presentation.
Oh, okay.
okay.
I'll probably forget what I was going to say.
I'll do questions. Is it a question if you?
Point about antisocial behaviour. So Michael's church, they come down and they bashed in that window for the door. Deliberately, I threw the bricks away that I found there. I don't know what I should have done, but it might have been deep step on it. But they went and they bashed it all. It wasn't just a catapult, they bashed it all in.
Did you report? Was it reported?
It was reported to the police, yes, I reported it.
Yeah.
Yes, because to the police ladies, the same bar. But I think we need CCTV there.
Can we just come back? Excuse me.
That side of the church.
Excuse me.
In that corner. So the people who sit there, leave down and out and sit there, there's nothing wrong with them. We leave them a be, and we just let them come in and use the toilet now and again. There's nothing wrong with them.
Excuse me, can I come back to the point in the presentation? Thank you.
Okay. To be fair, I'll move on now to another point actually, which might kind of, I'll move on to another bit in my presentation, which actually might sort of answer that. I work quite closely now with our victim-based crime team over at Swale, which is something that we haven't done before. We're sort of working quite closely together. So the idea being that my community officers will be out there, they'll be identifying what's going on. The victim-based crime teams and the teams that pick up the investigations, they'll go out and arrest people. And now we're working together and we're working in the same office. It's something as simple as that. We're able to do that quite quickly. It's a bit of more of a seamless sort of transition now. We use our various databases and tasking. We've got a tasking database that we use that we can identify suspects, and we know where our hotspots are, and they are a priority for us. So if it's been reported to this, I don't know about that individual. I can't know about each individual case. But I can assure you it would have been looked at and would have been aware of it, and my beat officers will be
I
aware of
believe
it as
there's
well.
lots of suspects for it, but they can't really put it on at the moment. But if we could have a camera out there,
Thank you,
it'd be fun.
thank you. We'll come back to that.
Right, so what should I get to? So, yeah, sort of back to the game with us, so we said, you know, that we need to sort of put some diversionary tactics. One thing we have done, again, over in Sheerness, I don't know, again, as you're aware, we've had the Sports Connect funds that we've had over in Sheerness. A lot of antisocial behaviour over in Sheerness, and it was reduced by 50% last year by putting funding into Sports Connect, which is basically mobile football pitches. And we identified several youngsters that were the main culprits of the ASB, and we actually targeted them and invited them onto the programme. You're never going to capture everybody, but of the 12 views that we identified, we managed to get 8 of them onto the programme, and then of course every issue since. So what I'd like to do is replicate something like that over here. It's something that, again, that's going to be sort of talked about in the next sort of few months. It's all dependent on funding, and I can't give an answer at this moment in time. There may be some funding from it from sort of police point of view as available, and if there is, then it would be something that I'll be looking to do as well, so that we can sort of capture everything, as well as obviously the community resolutions and, you know, the restorative justice. Nuisance vehicles is another thing that I wanted to sort of concentrate on as well, across the whole as well, continues to be a focus. And my neighbourhood task force have a number of days of action that they've got coming up. I've had some work done within the department to identify the temporal times and days when it's going on, so we can actually do targeted days of action. So we've got all of those booked in. That's not Sittingbourne specific, but Sittingbourne will be involved in that as well. And obviously they'll utilise whatever powers that they've got to seize the bikes, et cetera. We've got all sorts of things we can use, no insurance, no driving licence. So that will be over the next coming months that we'll be sort of doing days of those. Our violence against women and girls strategies, our war strategies continue. All of my beat officers are expected to do at least one war event each month. We have a ball calendar, and I expect them to update that all and what they're doing, and an update after, so that I can see what they're doing. So all of us are expected to sort of do that one a month. We have some really, really good engagement at various schools, community centres. My Faversham officers went down to a martial arts self-defence class with drunk women. They did a ball event there. And I'm always asking my officers to come up with new ways that we can sort of get out there. As the summer months come in, our vigilant will start up again, and that's where we target the pubs, and we will do nighttime economy walking around. Our focus for the next couple of months is going to be over in Laysdown, because we run up safe for Laysdown, and the holiday parks obviously start to sort of get full up as well. And we'll target all of those caravan parks as well, but not just in a, you know, we expect you to adhere to your licensing conditions that don't have any trouble, but the violence against women and girls strategies that go in there with them as well. And we've got various bits and safety kit that we'll take along with us as well, that we can give out to them. So we're coming up in the next sort of, in the immediate future, we've got Business Crime Partnership Week from the 17th and 23rd of March. Haven't got our plans yet as to what we're doing. My sergeants are working on that at the moment, but again, my expectation is that we will have a week of plans within Sittingbourne to work with all our business partners and small businesses and shops, everything, and go in and deliver some safety advice, whatever that looks like. So once I've got that together, I can send that out if you're interested, so you can see what we're doing with the business partnership. That's all my update for this evening, but I'm happy to take any questions. Like I said, if I can't answer them now, I can always come back.
Sorry, you raised your hand during the presentation.
I was just going to ask, you say we've had game bus here, and I know that they have that quite regularly when children arrive. You just said you could only have it once. What was that?
It was booked out.
Oh,
It was just booked out. Yeah, it was just booked out. So we booked it again for Easter. Same thing again. We've got a couple of days, but it's just booked out. So we said, right, okay, we'll get ahead for summer. It's obviously really popular, and they go all over with it. So yeah, it was just booked out. That was all it was.
So for the 6 weeks holiday, are you going to book it out every week, or will you not be able to do that?
Dependent on funding, I probably could book it out every week, but whether I'm able to, because whether they're physically able to do it is going to be the other issue as well. But
I'm only mentioning that because with Sarah Stevens, a year ago, my wife and I said that we would allow our game bus to come into town. And it didn't happen. So we're happy, and it's only because of the children.
Yeah.
Because I'm fed up
Yeah.
with seeing them getting into trouble because there's nothing in the town for them to do. And that is the only reason that they're doing it. I know this because I've got an ice cream van business and I'm out and I deal with the children all the time. I don't have any problem with the children that we've seen causing problems in the town. I don't have any problem when I'm out in the streets. I've not been out for a while, but I've not put the shower window, but when they're out in the streets, I don't see them at all. So I mentioned this, as I say, a year ago. And
Can I just,
put them straight over the top of our head.
before you go tonight, can you leave contact
Yeah,
details?
so I'll leave your contact.
And what we'll do, I'll ensure it's forwarded on and passed on so that you can have the conversation to get something done.
It's not where our youth club, and we sold it off, and there's lots of proceedings going on, it's not where our youth club.
Can County Council Sunday?
It's got, yeah, and it's schools and,
So if you just leave your,
yeah.
and I'll make sure it's passed on.
I will leave, sorry. And you haven't really cut it off.
No, it's not.
I will leave details, that's fine. You won't need funding for it because we've offered it free of charge.
Well, if you leave your details,
We want funding to have it, so.
if you can pass that on to me.
If you make something, have the details tonight, I'll make sure that's
That's actually when we have a chat next week, if that's all right.
Can I, Councillor Wise?
Yeah, thank you very much for coming along this evening. Really appreciate it. And it's always good when the police are able to attend to the area committees because I think obviously understandably your focus is on ASB in the town centre and it's one of the biggest issues that all of us get raised. Just a few points that I wanted to raise. I think the visible police presence that there's been in the high street obviously has increased recently, probably partly through the orders that you've had, and that's been really welcome. I think that's well received, and I think it's helpful when that ties in with when people want to do other activities and stuff in the high street like there was last Saturday, so that was helpful. Previously, when we've raised about certain people who are hanging around in the high street and that they were exploring some sort of court orders to sort of ban them from the high street, I just wondered whether any of those have actually been achieved, because we have a regular town centre meeting and some of this was being explored, and I just don't know whether we got there. I know that there's sort of an evidence picture that has to be built up, but I just wondered whether that has been pursued successfully. I also wondered, does Kent Police have a licence for live facial recognition technology at all? Is that something that's been used here? I know it's been trialled in some places in London. One of the biggest issues that affects my ward that I represent, Kemsley, is the use of dirt bikes and quad bikes.
Yeah.
I just wondered what the police is doing in terms of operations. There was one last year, I believe, in terms of disrupting people who were using dirt bikes down footpaths and other illegal use of them. And just finally as well, the Sheerness train line. Last year in particular, there was an issue where people know that there's no ticket barriers at Sheerness and there's no ticket barriers at Kemsley. And so they're using that route to sort of move between Sittingbourne location, particularly causing issues around the retail park and in Sheerness. And I know that recently they're saying that there's no real link between the usual people causing ASB in those two localities, but it was an issue last summer. Just wondering whether there's peace along with the British Transport Police on that line in particular, and whether the police could support our causes, have the ticket barriers reinstated at Sheerness to disrupt that movement. Thank you.
No, okay, right, I'll address those. I think I've written them down, right? So yeah, the visible police presence, yeah, it has increased. And yeah, that's partly because it is what not orders as such. But essentially, since I've sort of been on the team, my and again, it's not difficult. We know when the temporal times are. We know when these children. It's not going to be during the day at 12 o'clock, is it? It's going to be at night and at the weekends, and that's when I expect my officers out on the street. And that's what I'm doing. Is putting them out there. So I'm not going to please all of the people all the time, and I know people say, well, I'm not seeing them at 12 o'clock, but I need them there. I need my officers there at 6 o'clock when the children are out of school, and at the weekends, and that's when I need them there, and that's when I'm sort of putting, trying to put all my resources there. The van people, we won't go into names here. I do know that at least one of them, yes, CPWs have been issued, and I think has been progressed to CPN. I'm not going to obviously go into personal details. But what I'll do is I'll come back to you with, I won't just leave it at that, because I don't know, but I know certainly since I've been here, definitely one. Live facial recognition, well, if we are using that, it's news to me, so I think that's probably a no for the time being. The dirt bikes, I've simply said, I should have included that, that's what I meant by the list of vehicles, exclusive bikes, so yeah, we are well aware of that. Again, I've been over to, Faversham this week. It just so happens there was a field over in Faversham. I met with the farmer over there on a really rainy day. So that was great in his budding field. So that was a big area there. But I've also we're focusing our efforts and focusing on Sittingbourne as well. And we've done a lot of work in there. And to be fair, across the three areas, Sheerness, Faversham, and Sittingbourne, without again going into too much detail, I'm pretty certain we are probably looking at 3 or 4 suspects that are doing it across the cap rather than 3 here, 3 there. So what we need to do, I can't go into all the tactics that we're going to be using, but suffice it to say that's what I meant by it's the dirt bikes that I meant by nuisance vehicles. The Sheerness train line, yeah, absolutely, I'm aware of that as well. And yes, there is going to be a piece of work. I had a meeting last week with BTP and Network Rail as well, because we've got now got information sharing agreements with them as well. So yeah, I'll take that back and I'll get back to you on those 2 points if that's all right.
Yeah, thanks very
About
much.
and the bank.
Councillor Nicholas?
Thank you. You're probably fully aware there have been issues with the trials bikes.
Yeah.
In Milton, Bridge, and I've brought it up, I meant you did.
Yeah.
So, I understand there was a police operation for Saturday, yeah. Detail about it. I haven't been in constant contact with the control centre as and when people be coming onto me and I'll be getting advising them of one system. Basically, I believe two bikes were seized on the
Yes.
transaction day.
Yes, they were. I believe they were. I'll come back to that one, Tony, but I know we did, I do think we received 1 bike at least, not sure if it was 2.
That's what I was told. And so there's two CCTV cameras in there, and I won't go against which was switched on last in December. I do stress to people that they must get one. I can't ask this question, but before you get to know, I can go wrong. Email. Basically, I understand there's going to be a third camera installed, a second camera installed. The other thing is, me and my colleague Kieran had a preliminary neighbourhood watch meeting on Sunday, format of making watch groups. Some of the people are here tonight. Basically, we're sort of getting a format going, who was interested, but obviously you as police are going to be involved because formulating the prompt. So what we're asking for really is if we could have another meeting at the Box Church, which we can, would you come along?
Yeah.
And advise how to get this formulated. Council wise, that's now colleague Kieran there. So if we could get a date set for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you spoken to BC Williams, the big officer of Wilson?
I have, no.
Okay.
Do you think they're not too important.
I think I've got your details, Tony, anyway. Have I got your details already?
My details on
I can always come to you, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine, yeah, absolutely. And BC Williams is your local beat officer of the Milton anyway. A, she's got aware of the dirt bike issues, and B, she'll come along with me to the meeting tonight.
Yeah, thanks very much.
We do have talking about a problem with catapults. Now, should they be selling catapults in that suburb at the top of the town and imitation guns? They say they can sell them, but there's nothing to stop them selling them. But they were sitting on Church Hills, firing catapults.
Okay. What shop is this that you're talking about?
Oh, the one that used to be,
Trade company.
yeah. Anyway, the number 20, Lavender Court, there was at the bus stop there was 5 catapults, and they broke the window. So catapults can be a problem with the children. And people who've got the catapults, they don't care. And the lady who was in that house, she took a picture of it, and they went, you still can't catch us, even though you've got the picture.
Yeah, we are aware of it, and I can assure you that anyone that is caught doing it, we are dealing with it.
Please. Well, you're not going to do it at the time, no?
Mr. Pollard?
Hi, your business crime partnership week,
Mhm.
did you say, was that the bit where you said you didn't know when that was going to
No,
be?
it's 17th to 23rd of March. It's like International Business Crime Partnership Week. So obviously it's going on nationally and locally. It's going up to each sort of local area as to what they're going to be doing.
In the Merston ward, there's, speaking to the local shops, they feel unsafe.
Okay.
They've tried the swell walkie-talkies, they've got cameras up, they report regularly online because being on the phone while they're trying to do a job is not compatible. And so getting involved in that the prime partnership week, is it possible to put businesses forward?
Yeah, if you've got specific, if you've got specific businesses that you feel would benefit from this, I mean, again, my expectation would be that the beat officers will visit everybody, but if you've got specific ones that we need to target, then absolutely, because that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's supposed to make them feel safe, helping provide safety advice, prevention advice, and reporting advice. So yeah, you've got
So
particular.
I'll work with Marcus and,
It's Marcus, yeah, Marcus is 100%, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. okay,
that's
thank
fine.
you.
It's fine.
Yeah, I've been asked by my residents about what's going to happen about the people who are still going around in these electric scooters. I had one lady who was knocked off her feet, and I see them regular. And it's not children, it's adults.
Yeah, again, that is part of my initiative for the nuisance vehicles. It encompasses everything, the dirt bikes and the e-scooters as well. What area is that, sorry, that you're?
Kemsley, and also, I've seen them in the high street and around, It seems that there's a couple which obviously they go to work on them and they come home from work on them. You think, oh, well, But, there's been a lot of complaints anyway. I know it's a hard job for you to do, Tron, because you've got to actually be there to catch him, haven't you? And
and that's and it's a very good point. It is very difficult because obviously, especially with the bikes, we might find them and then they're off again. But we've got various ways and means.
Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you. So, Julie, it's been very much a one-way street tonight with saying, what are you doing about it? So, as councillors, I want to tell it on his head and say, what is it that we can do to help you to get that better? Because it's definitely a two-way street.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to answer now. Because it really is because.
I was going to say at the end of this, as we knew from before when we've had the police and inspectors in, everything the police are doing at the moment is data led. So if you have an incident, report it. So if you don't report it, the police aren't aware that it's a hotspot. They therefore can't target resources. So that was very strongly said a year ago. I think that's the message we should see saying, report whatever you see so that you've got the data to act on it. Sorry.
Can I just say, you just said about keep reporting these problems. I know a family that reported over 300 times. The police then went and got their own evidence, could prove the people were doing what they were doing, and then they know.
I can't
Can't really comment
individual
on that.
cases.
But it would have been, the fact that they'd been reported so often, the police would have focused on dealing with that. What happens in the criminal system after that, it's a different thing entirely.
Yeah, they just, there's something that you do that it's like a point scoring thing before you would charge somebody. I can't think what word it's called. But they got right to the limit, right on the limit. And then let go. Does that make sense? And I know that firsthand, because that family is me. So I'm not saying it for another family, I'm saying it for us. Tim Gibson knows about it. Ken Rolls knows about it. Am I right, Ken? Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Tim Gibson knows about it.
Is this ongoing? Is it a recent thing? Is it still ongoing
It's been
now?
going on since 2020, so it's been going on for 4 years. It's been going on since we was in there, they were councillors. It's been going on since then. It's still going on now because the people are now coming up to where we live now in the rural group in Harvard. We've moved to Harvard, not because of them, but we've moved to Harvard and now they're coming up there.
Maybe once we pass your personal
Yeah, I was
details on,
just
you can deal with that.
If that's all right, we'll take that.
Yeah,
Take that outside, if that's all right.
Anybody else?
Sorry, could I just say, Councillor Gibson, well, perhaps I could have a chat to you next week. If that's all right, if that's fine, if I can contact you, have a chat, that's all right.
Tony?
Just quickly, if I think you can show you, it's my order, I have all bits and breaches. Do certain element of, pockets of where people allege, I use the word allege, of drug taking. Now, I have told people when they come to me, what I'm gonna say, but when they see this going on, to report it to the police. I think one particular area, I believe, Chris.
What's that?
In your head, that's still going on? The drug taking. And the
Oh,
double,
they're all around,
yeah, definitely.
Chinese problem, but in there, just no one does anything, so you just leave it. Just like the Tom, we run up to this.
Police inspectors maybe. So that's one area. There's also allegations. Again, there could be someone peddling drugs in the high street. Not to say that the premises are, so the police investigate. But obviously now that we've got the CCTV camera in the high street, that camera will pick anything up that may be going on there.
Yeah, again, I'll just pick up that point there. I understand where you're coming from, but there, and I know what you're saying, that you don't bother reporting anymore, because there's no point. There really is, and I can assure you that we do take it seriously. And again, I know it might be that you might report it, somebody's taking drugs, we might come along and they've gone by the time that we get there, but every call like that will generate an intel report. And we will put an intel report on, and if people keep phoning us and people keep telling us, then we build up that, it's the only way that we can build up an intelligence picture of what is going on, you know, and you don't need me to tell you here the absolute devastation and harm that drug dealing causes in our streets, and nobody wants that. So I understand where you're coming from, but we really do need people to report it so that we can continue to build up that intel picture. And then, you know, obviously we do have the tactics and the teams that can do something about it. And again, that's part of my job here as well, within the community, but I don't know about it and I don't know what's going on. Within our community teams, we've got our child centre policing team, which, as the name suggests, they do a lot of work in schools for young people. We've got our beat officers who obviously, you know, are responsible for different beats in different wards. And we've also got our neighbourhood task force sort of in the middle of the community and our community. And our neighbourhood task force, they're almost a little bit like, they do a bit of everything. So I can task them to do the nuisance bike things, whatever they need to do, that's what they do in the neighbourhood task force. So again, things like that would be something that I would say to my neighbourhood task force, right, okay, I need you to start looking into this, because of the nature of their job, they're flexible with their shifts. So if I need them to come and sit in a particular road, for a weekend, overnight to do that, then that's what it is. So it really is important for you to keep reporting it. So, I said, I'm sorry that you feel like that, but please continue to report it whatever you can.
One of them, just carry on from what we had from the previous inspector. When you report it, it doesn't always mean you're going to get a policeman or police car turn up. It's logged and reported. So if you're one of a number, it pushes a hotspot. So it is worth doing, I would say. Sorry.
This has gone on for years.
Let's try and sort it. Sorry.
What's the policy on the kids smoking vapes in school uniform? Well, you're at the time to see it.
Well, they should be doing it under the age of 16, and they shouldn't be sold to them either. And again, that's another bit of work we do. We work with our licensing teams as well and trading standards. So that is a real multi-agency partnership sort of piece of work as well. But again, if you've got any information on where they're getting it from, then by all means pass it on to us so that we can actually target the places that are selling them that shouldn't be, and that we can do that as well. So please let us know.
They bribe other people to buy it for them. I've worked in shops and we can see it happening.
Councillor Chief.
Yes, clarification really. When we report things, is it 101 or 999? If you see something actually happening, is that 999?
It is life-threatening or an emergency, and your life, somebody else's life is at risk. 999, if not 101.
Okay, so if something you've come across some bits, but nobody's there at the time, that's what I want. Thank you.
Is it illegal for cycles and e-bikes to be on the road?
It is, yeah.
And it's more on the pavement than on the road.
And I've and somebody made a point earlier on about people sort of going to work, and unfortunately we don't discriminate whether you're a 15-year-old on an e-bike or you're down to the station on your way to work, unfortunately. Yes, and we know they're big mess and they are dangerous as well. So again, if you are seeing them out about, please report them to us because we need to.
So it's not illegal for children to cycle on the pavement, is it? So if you've got like a 5-year-old on a bike, are they expected?
Yeah, not on not on.
No, we were talking about bicycles.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I think you meant e-scooters.
Yeah, I was talking about both.
Oh, e-scooters it is, but not bikes. No, sorry, I thought you meant e-scooters, sorry, it meant just e-scooters.
Chair.
Yeah.
It's something I've thought of for some time. It would be good if the council could put a paper together with the police of what the town is doing with CTV. When I was a councillor, we went over to the control centre, and it's so informative. I know it's not just here that they manage other areas, but it can't be a very expensive operation to inform the public what, and this is the youngsters don't know when they are seen, that, you know, they are on camera.
Thank you for that. I'll take that forward and see what we can do. Is there any more questions? Is that? Thank you very much for attending. Thanks for all the information. And I'll get that information to you from the people on details. Item 6, devolution.
Thank you very much. I've been asked to come and just update you on what's happening with the government's plan for devolution and local government reorganisation. So when the government came into power, before they came into power, they were very clear that what they wanted was a mayor for each location. So that's not Swale, but they wanted a mayor for larger locations, and they wanted those mayors to have devolved powers from government. Can I have the next slide, please? And what they said was that actually the way that we work with directly elected mayors and councils was really important, and they were really complimentary about councils in their paper, and they said they're the foundation of the state. They're critical to driving growth, delivering and reforming local public services that people rely on, and to our democratic system. And what they said is really what they mean is whenever there was, so when there was COVID, they looked to councils to make sure that people had food parcels that couldn't come out. And we did a lot of work getting grants out to businesses. And so what they said is actually, it's really important that councils, they have a really important role to play. But what they also said is that councils really need to be put back on their feet because they're a little bit broken. So that's what the council said, that's what the government said. And they issued a white paper in December, on the 19th of December, which talked about their vision for having mayors and what those mayors would do. And it's quite a long paper. So next slide, please. So what I've done is we've read it for you. So and what it said is England's actually one of the most centralised countries in the world. If you go to France, then often you have the mayor, Monsieur le Maire or Madame Maire of each area who have powers to raise taxes. In America, if you go to different states, they have different laws in their states, and that's all very much devolved down to those local places. In England, what we have the government, and they make the rules, and they're responsible for education and skills and transport, and that gets devolved out. So if we don't like our bus company in Kent, there's nothing we can do about it. We can't go, actually, we'll get rid of them and we'll get someone else. We're not allowed to do that because it's centralised. And what the government said was that they wanted more decisions to come down to local, what they call town halls. They wanted more areas to be able to say, we're responsible for our own growth, for our own transport, and we are going to have someone that is directly accountable to the people of our area. And what we're going to do is we're going to let them decide. So what they're looking at having in every area is something called a strategic authority. And the strategic authority has a directly elected mayor sitting at the top. And then it has underneath the leaders and representatives of all of the councils, unitary councils, who form a group who make the decisions, and they decide what money is spent. The mayor has a lot of power. The police crime commissioner, who's currently Matthew Scott, they would sit under the mayor. And the way that it works is it gives that mayor the ability to be able to do things for their area. And in our area, it would be Kent, and they would decide what happens in Kent. And the public would be able to vote them out if they didn't do the right thing for our place. So what they wanted was, they wanted them to have a financial settlement and powers, so the money coming down from government over transport and infrastructure, skills and employment, housing and strategic planning, environment, climate change and economic development and regeneration, health and wellbeing and public safety. So we already have an elected person that oversees the police, and that's Matthew Scott, as I've said. But we would have somebody that would oversee transport. So we could decide, or they could decide, integrated transport between the trains and the buses. And they could say, actually, we want to put more buses on the road rather than less, and we want to run it in this way. They would also be responsible for growth and skills. So if you want to grow an area, but you've got a shortage of skills there, what they could do is they could do work to make sure the areas are skilled. Now, we were expecting that because they told us in their manifesto that that's what they were going to do. What they also said, and it wasn't in their manifesto, but every government for the last 15 years has been talking about it, so it's not anything that was new, was to get rid of two-tier system, so Swale and Kent County Council. So to get rid of the borough and district councils and to replace them with unitary councils. And what a unitary council does is it takes the services that Kent County Council have got, like adult social care, children's, transport, highways, and it takes what we've got, so housing, homelessness, and it puts them together into one council. Now, Medway is a unitary council, but they wouldn't exist either, because what they say is they want the new unitary councils to have about 500,000 people in them. Now, there's a big question about how close to 500,000 do you have to go. Some people think it's absolutely 500,000. Other people say, well, actually, if you had it and it works and it's 400,000, that would be okay. We're nowhere near that. So we couldn't be a unitary authority on our own. We'd have to join with other people. Next slide, please. So having this mayoral system isn't anything new. Most of you have heard of, I would imagine, Sittingbourne, who is the mayor of London, or Andy Burnham, who is the mayor of Greater Manchester, or if any of you watch Coronation Street, there used to be an actress in there called Tracy Brabin, and she's now the mayor of West Yorkshire. And if you look at the map, which we've chopped off Scotland, but if you look at the map, and we've chopped off other Wales as well, if you look at the map, you will see that the purple bits are the bits that already have a mayor. And they've got the mayor, and they did what was called a devolution deal, and they've got a mayor who's got powers. And then if you have a look at the red ones, they're the ones that are going to get a mayor this year because they've already done that work. And if you look at the blue ones, they're places that have got devolution but haven't got a mayor. So they did a deal that said that they wouldn't get a mayor. And what the government said was anyone that wants to do this, that wants to be in the fast track, the devolution priority programme, can apply, and we will let them go first. Now, we applied as Kent. It wasn't up to Swale, it was up to Kent County Council and Medway whether they applied. And we applied, as did pretty much all of the councils from Norfolk and Suffolk along to the Solent, to the Isle of Wight. So everybody said Essex, Sussex, East Sussex, West Sussex, Hampshire, they all applied. And everyone but us got it. So Kent didn't get it. But it doesn't mean that we won't get a mayor. It just means we won't be in the first tranche. But what they said at the same time was, although you haven't got a mayor, we want every council in the country that's not in a unitary already to apply and tell us how you think you can do these bigger councils. And so that's where we are now. Next slide, please. So what we've got is the government saying that the reason that we want these bigger councils is because there's a problem with districts, and that is that we can't live up to our potential. And the reason we can't live up to our potential is because the link between the money we get and the services we have to provide is broken. So you have some councils in the country that have lots and lots of money in their bank, in their reserves, and don't have to provide lots and lots of services because they don't have great need, because they're in affluent, wealthy areas. And then you have other places that don't have a lot of money because they spend a lot of money on temporary accommodation or on adult social care or on different things that certain councils have to provide. And what they said is that the link's broken. And because the link's broken, we're spending so much money providing statutory services, the ones we have to provide, that the ones that people want us to provide and do all the good. So we've talked about youth services. There used to be a youth club. Youth clubs do huge amounts of good work, but there's not the money to provide them because the councils are spending more money doing other things. And so what they said is if we change the way that we do councils, then what we can do is there can be a better link, and some of the councils with more money will come in with some of them without the money, and ultimately we'll build efficiencies, because we have 14 versions of me in Kent, which is quite frightening. But actually, if we only had 3 or 4 councils, that's 9 times or 10 times the of my salary that's saved instantly, because you don't need as many chief executives if you've got bigger councils. So what they're saying is there is a way to make it that it can become more efficient, that you haven't got this problem and we all do it. Maybe not you, we do it, we go, flipping KCC. They've done this is not right. Oh, KCC have cut that. It's not us, it's KCC. Well, if we had all of the services, then our local councillors could choose, do we want to spend the money here or do we want to spend the money here? And we're not doing some things twice because we do a bit of it and KCC do a bit of it. And an example of that is the bins. Sorry, didn't mean to mention the bins. We collect the bins and we have all of this thing to collect the bins. KCC dispose of the rubbish. That's 2 different contracts with 2 different contract managers. If we have one place doing it all, it makes it better. So what they also want is to stop the piecemeal micromanagement or the competitive tone. And that competitive tone is when we say flipping KCC or flipping government, and they say flipping councils. So it is a way of saying, most residents don't care if you're KCC or if you're Swale. They just want it done. They want the pothole filled. They want the whatever it is done. And they don't care when you go, I'm sorry, that's not us, that's them. And if we have one, then it's much easier for residents. So that's the plan. So that's the good bit. So what we know, next slide, please. What we know is that Kent wasn't chosen to be part of that first mayoral devolution thing. It will come, it just wasn't there first. But we do know that the government have said very clearly they want mayors, they want strategic authorities, they want to devolve power from central government. And people are saying Swale won't exist anymore. No, we'll be gone. Swale won't exist. Well, Swale Council won't exist, but the place is gonna, there's a place is gonna be existing. Before 1974, you didn't have Swale, you had Queenborough Town or Queenborough Council and something Urban Council and Faversham Council, and you had all these councils. So Swale is an artificial concept. But actually, the people of Swale will still be here. Their needs, their service needs will still be here. They'll still want to do things. They'll still get married. They'll still have children. All of this stuff still happens. So the people aren't going anywhere and they still need services. So we know that. What we don't know, next slide, please, is we don't know what the unitary geography will look like. So I've heard people saying what it's going to be us and Medway and Gravesham and Dartford. That's going to be it. And then I've heard other people say, oh, no, it's not going to be that. What it's going to be Maidstone, Ashford, it's going to be Maidstone, Ashford and Swale. And then I say, well, it could be Swale and Sevenoaks because we both begin with the letter S. And where we're at the moment is we don't know anything. I think it's unlikely to be Swale and Sevenoaks. But it could be Swale, Thanet, and Canterbury, because we're along the coast. It could be. So there's lots of things it could be, and we don't know that yet. And the reason that we don't know that is because it isn't just as simple as saying, this councillor are friends. We like them, we want to work with them. There's a lot of information that we have to get down around what does it look like if we join with these people? What does the council tax base look like? What's the difference in council tax between Swale and Folkestone and Hythe? Is it a lot? Is it little? What's the demand? Because you don't want to put all the demand in one place. So there's a big piece of work that we have to do. And the other thing that we don't really know is what you want, what Swale residents want. Because the one weakness of where we're at now is nobody's asked the residents. And our councillors are really keen to talk to the residents. So they're working on ways that they can hear from the residents. Some residents, as I've said, they don't really know what's us and what's KCC and they don't care. They just want it done. Other residents really do care and say, actually, this is really important. I identify with this area and it's really important that you take that into account. So we need to find out what residents want. Next slide, please. So what do we do? So we've got to put in a proposal by the 21st of March. which is unbelievably soon. But the proposal doesn't have to say, this, we are going to partner with these people. What it has to say is, yes, we would like to do this because we know that we have to. It's also likely to say what we don't want. It's likely to say, we don't want one council for the whole of Kent. We don't want that. It's likely to say that. And it's likely to say, we don't know the geography yet. And we'll work to do the geography. The most important day is that 28th of November day, because that's when we have to have a proposal in. That's when we have to say, this is the proposal. And it could be 5 proposals from Kent, because we might not agree. We might say, our proposal is we want Swale, Dover, Dartford. That's what we want. So we're all over the place.
Too big.
Huh?
It's too big.
So that's right. So we could say, I'm not saying we will say that. And then somebody else could say, no, somebody else could say, we want this, this, and this. And what will happen is we all put our ideas in, and then the government decides. So the government chooses. Now, what Kent leaders, so all the leaders of Kent, so Councillor Gibson's the leader of Swale, but he's working with all of the group leaders in Swale, and there's 5 others other than him, and they're working really closely to say, how do we consult with residents? And that's really important. Now, the other thing that we have, people talk about getting rid of 2 tiers, but we have parish councils, and I know there's not one in Sittingbourne, but there are in lots and lots of parts of Swale. And people have said to me, well, what happens to parish councils? And nothing, actually. The legislation doesn't cover them. But as we devolve things down from government to Kent, we could devolve things down to parishes. So some parish councils are saying, actually, if we've got some, if the council have got some assets that they're worried might get sold or whatever, give them to the parish because it stays in community ownership. So we're also working with our parish councils to say, you know, is that what we want? Some places, so I was at a meeting last night in Halfway in Sheffield, where they've said, since this has come out, we'd quite like our own parish council, please. So I went to talk to them about setting up a parish. And if you have people that want to set up a parish, then there's a system that you go through where you have to have so many people sign a petition and then we do a review. It's not quick, it takes about a year, but some people have said that's what they want and we will support them. Next slide. So we're at the early stages, but it's moving really quickly and we're probably going to have a meeting where people can come, a bit like this one, where people can come and ask questions. Or say what's important to them. They can tell us, do you think we should look towards north? I don't know more north for myself today. Do you think we ought to look north towards Medway? Do you think we ought to look east towards Thanet and Canterbury? Do you think we ought to look towards Maidstone or Ashford? Who do you think we should work with? And we want to hear from people so they can tell us what they think. And then that will enable our leaders, 6 leaders, but through our council leader, Councillor Gibson, to go to the meetings and say, this is what the people of Swale want. And I think it's unlikely that the government will let us just say, we don't want any of this, because it's going to happen everywhere. It did in 1974, and people are still cross about it from 1974 to now, which was what, 52 years ago. So 51 years. So that's where we're at. Does anyone have any questions?
Hang on, 10 seconds, just here and then I'll do in a second.
Thank you very much, Lewis. That was very useful, but we still don't know what's going to happen, so we've just got to wait, haven't we? But I understand more now, seeing that presentation. Thank you very much.
You do have to wait, but you also have to think, because as super duper as the leader is, who goes to all of these meetings and they're long, actually it helps him if people can say to him, this is what we want in Swale. Doesn't mean we'll get it,
No.
but otherwise, he's a bit in the dark.
Yeah.
So the more you can bring to him
Mm.
from your residents, the better it is for, it's easier it is for him.
So you want to go?
Yeah, yes, I was one of the people who went to the neighbourhood watch meeting. And as I sat there, I realised that when this unitary system comes into being, we'll have much less contact with councillors. There won't be so many councillors per head of population.
No, they won't.
They won't. So it's more important for parish councils to become strong and Milton hasn't got a parish council at the moment, but we would be very keen to get one going. So if you point us in the right direction and show us how to begin.
So if you contact me, and we can get you my contact details, I can talk to you about how you start parish council.
Oh, that's something, thank you.
I'm very happy. And you're right. One of the things is that there will be more. We don't know how many councillors yet. That all comes out as we go through the process. But if you go to places that are quite big unitaries, councillors still have a lot of contact with residents. Councillors are still emailing, phoning, going to meetings. It's different, but it does still happen. And so I think to say that you'll get less, there'll be fewer, but it might not be that you have less contact, because the councillors still really are passionate about their place, so they want to know what's going on.
Yes, there will just be fewer of them.
There will just be fewer. They'll just be working harder, I'm afraid. Sorry, councillors.
I would say, we hear rumours about this. This is the first time I've sat down and heard it explained like you have. But I do think how we can, in this short time, put it down to all the residents.
So the short time is actually, it's still a short time, but it's actually before November. We want to do something as soon as possible. Once that we go forward, it's not going to come into place. We won't have a new council until about, at the earliest, 2028, could be 2029. So it's not going to happen next week or next year. It takes a long time to set up a new council. And at each point, there'll be statutory consultation and local consultation. There'll be lots of consultation about how many councillors, what the boundaries of the council, the ward boundaries, all of that stuff will happen. So, but what we have got to decide by the 28th of November is we've got to do lots around the money, which we're starting already, get lots of data together about residents, about budgets, about council tax, about systems, all of that sort of thing. But we've got to agree the geography. And that's just going to be the tricky bit.
So small, I think. Sorry, you mentioned the bins earlier.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm sure I did.
The bins are meant to go in monthly, aren't they?
No.
Never.
No. It might feel like it sometimes in the last year. But no, our contract is for fortnightly collections. Now, you get a collection every week, but 1 week it's general waste and 1 week it's recycling. And if you do what I do, you look down the road to see what everyone else has put out, because I can never.
My bins got taken away from the front of mine and then got taken around, because I live in the block of flats.
Oh, right.
In Marston, and they got taken around the back. But what we do suffer from is fly tipping, and we have asked the housing, Southern Housing and councillors when they walk past to pick the security gates back on to help stop fly tipping in that. And we don't get no answer.
Okay, well, I can.
We do have views, they do jump on top of the
I'm
thing.
going to say we can.
Then it's safety issue.
If you come and see me afterwards, I can take that back and we can talk to Southern. That's not a problem. But the bins are not being collected monthly. That's if you're on a weekly collection now.
You on ITV, they were talking about it.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I hope not, because flighty bin, that's.
So when I say the bins are not going to be kept, ours are, I'm not saying that somewhere else in the country they're not trying it or doing it, but our contract says that this is how we collect it and this is when we collect it, and that's not changing. And if we go to a new council, it still won't change because we're in a contract. So our contract has to last the whole period of time. What might happen at the end of that contract is we talk about having a new contract, but that's going to be 7 years down the line. And I don't know what's going to happen then, but for now and for the next, you don't have to worry that it's not changing at all.
If I talk to you about the
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Talking about bins, can we align them much better than what they are? Because I have been putting green bins out in Fairview Road.
Yeah.
And then putting blue bins out in each street. Well, should each street of Fairview Road be put in the same colour?
No, because if you go around the borough, soon everybody's going to put the same ones out. So what we do
It
is,
should be an area. So when
that's right, and you're on the,
Mercer Road, all the way down to the traffic light, shouldn't we all be putting green ones out either side of the road?
we've just managed to get them to collect what we've put out. I think we need to stick with what we've got just for now. If it's being collected and you're putting it out, it might seem a bit weird that someone else is putting it out.
The weirdest thing is, I went and asked them about the church one, you see.
Yeah.
You see, because on the Wednesday, I put the church ones out onto the court. They put it out in front of the hairdresser there, we put it in my road there. And I asked them what the colour was, and they said, yes, but they are putting blue ones down each street.
Yeah.
And you would think there would be blue ones coming up the high street, but no, it's green, the same as what is in Fairview Road.
But at the moment, as I say, it's taken us a year to get them to collect them as we want them. Let's just hold on to that for now.
It's confusing though, because I would have thought it would be the same all the way up.
Life is.
So I went to find out which colours to put out, you see, I asked.
Good back.
You're fine.
Yeah, there's other questions in there, so that if we, no doubt, won't get this sorted out by 2027.
Oh, you're going to ask me if we're going to postpone the elections, aren't you?
No, well, around that way, do you think the government will insist the Scarborough Council have new elections or will?
So that question's been asked a number of times. What the government has said is there are they don't like postponing elections. That became very clear from the number of people that applied to postpone them and the number that they don't like it. However, they have said they haven't even thought about 2027 yet. And the reason is because we just don't know how many of us are going to get there. If it's 2027 and we start the council in 2028, there will be an argument. Do you do 2 elections in 2 years or do you not? And I think that's going to be a decision that will be further down the line when we know. Some of our colleague councils, so Tunbridge Wells councils, they have elections every 3 years or 3 out of 4 years. They have 1 year, they don't have them. So actually, what will happen to them? So it's quite complex, but the government have said they have made no decisions on whether they're going to postpone any other councils' elections other than some of them this year where they've been clear they're postponing for 1 year only, and that is it. And I don't think the government can make a decision until it knows much closer to the time how close we are to being ready for a new council. Because if it's 2 years away, so if it's 2029, they might say, no, absolutely, you need to have elections. But we won't know that until probably the beginning, 6 months, 8 months beforehand.
Okay, thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up a couple of things that people have raised. I mean, there is the initial thought when you're looking at a unitarisation process that going from a district council to unitary, it does seem that the sort of geography will be too big. But then that is an argument for Kent as an authority. Kent County Council is too big. That is that just underscores that is an authority that's representing almost 2 million people. And there is very little clarity and accountability. We see it all the time over who is responsible for what. And I also accept the point that in terms of going from a district to unitary, it might seem that you get fewer councillors and therefore less contact with councillors. But if we're being honest, what sort of contact do people currently have with Kent County councillors? It's the district councillors that people see out and about and they speak with. The accountability there with people who are responsible for 73% of your council tax, because that's what KCC takes, versus Swale Council's 9% of your council tax. I think there's a big accountability gap, and hopefully through unitaries, because that authority will have responsibility for all of those services, the accountability will be a lot clearer for people and be a lot better. And I think going back to the efficiencies point, there is some common sense in some of this as well. Hopefully then we will start to see as a result of this. For example, in Kemsley Village, some of the verges will be cut so many times a year because it's Kent County Council. Some of them will be cut different times a year because they're Swale Borough Council, and some of them will be cut even different times because they're Southern Housing that own them. Yet they probably all use the same contractors, which is just a massive inefficiency. So whether it's through your rent to Southern Housing or your council tax that's paid to KCC and Swale Borough Council, there's clearly a massive inefficiency in that system there, that hopefully we can start to resolve this. It's just a really obvious example that people see when they come out their front doors, but there's loads of these that exist in the system that hopefully can just be really smoothed out through this process. That would be really welcome in my view, a bit of common sense.
Anybody else want to ask? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Item 7, the waste and street cleaning scrutiny review.
So good evening. Members have asked me to provide a bit of an update this evening on the waste and street cleansing scrutiny review that has taken place. Let me just sorry, I'm good at multitasking with these. Right, okay. There we go. So to give some background, in July 2024, the Environment and Climate Change Committee agreed that a scrutiny review should be carried out on the mobilisation of the new waste and street cleansing service for Swale following the period of disruption that took place. It's also good practice to carry out a review at the end of a major project like this. But in this case, members felt that it was important to do this as soon as possible so that residents had answers to their questions about what had actually happened. So a cross-party member scrutiny panel was formed of 5 councillors and they carried out the review. Between August and November last year, the member panel held a number of workshops and meetings with key officers and representatives from SUEs. So the workshops were themed and focused on resources and staffing, data and rounds, contract and project management, and communications. The panel looked at key information, which included items such as tender documents, risk registers, mobilisation and recovery plans, and officer and member working group notes. In September last year, area committees and local councils liaison forum were consulted, certainly came along to this meeting, and all feedback was fed back into the review. A public consultation was launched on the 3rd of September and closed on the 2nd of October, and it received over 2,000 responses, all of which again were fed into the review. A survey of Swale Borough Council members was also carried out to find out how individual wards had been impacted. Following the panel's investigations, members developed a report which summarised their conclusions about the root causes of the problems at the start of the waste contract. It also agreed 23 recommendations so that learning can be carried forward. The recommendations covered areas such as training, contract monitoring, resources, data, the impact of new housing developments, vulnerable properties, ongoing scrutiny and communication. The member panel took the report to the Environment and Climate Change Committee on the 15th of January, where the findings were discussed and the 23 recommendations were agreed. The committee proposed and agreed a couple of minor amendments to those recommendations, but they were on issues such as scrutiny going forward and the frequency of taking update reports to that committee. So the purpose of giving you this update this evening is to make sure that residents are aware that the report has now been published on the Scarborough Common Council website. There's a link on the screen that you can use to view it, as that's a bit long to remember. If you go into the website and on the search bar, if you just type in Waste Scrutiny Review Report, we've tested it to make sure it takes you to the right page. It will take you to that report. It is quite a lengthy report, as it includes summaries of the consultations carried out. So there's quite a lot of information there and explanations behind the 23 recommendations. So what the panel did was they put together a summary of, which is much shorter. It's got the 23 recommendations plus an explanation behind them. So if somebody wants something shorter to read, to get an idea, they can read that. That's just over 4 pages. And I've got hard copies this evening. If anybody would like to take a hard copy away, if they don't have access to the internet. So that's it really on the update. If there's any questions about the report, hopefully I can answer them. If it's about ongoing issues with the waste contract, I'll probably have to take that away.
Any question? Yeah.
I just got to say, I mean, it's been a vast improvement since this workshop was carried out. It has been done. It's actually the case. I was saying, my emails, I think I was getting about 20, 30 a day at one stage in Archon, and out on the Bible Regis. I haven't had any reports coming for quite some time about things being missed, and I was riding around on Friday afternoon in my car, checking the roads that hadn't been done, which probably was done, and making the deposit of it, but I hadn't had to do that for quite some time, so fingers crossed, possibly no, it does.
Good, yeah, I'll feed that back to the thing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Anybody wants to ask anything? No. Okay, thank you for that. Item 8, matters arising. Things that we've been progressing over the last few years. I'll read through what's going on, what's actually happening. I don't know if people have got hard copies. The first one is under heritage issues, area of special control advertisements. I understand that this is a draft consultation document going out in the summer of this year. Any comments? Periwinkle Mill, ongoing. The site's been cleared now. And gates and ramps been put up, but there's still additional work needs to be done. Swell local heritage list. Updates have been given to various committees, and it's gone before Policy and Resources in November. And the panel has selected, there's been a panel set up, and there have been a selected number of sites, and should be ongoing over the next couple of years. The Sittingbourne Tennis Club, understanding a lot of the work that's there, such as the toilets and improving the area, together with Milton recreational ground, that is ongoing. Stuff's out. There's a budget. Stuff's out to the budget's there, and they are now on to contractors to get the work done.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's pleased to see that there's going to be some more investment going into the fitness courts at Milton Regis. I know my previous colleague, Councillor Vance, I believe took it up. It's good to use the phrase, and other bailiffs has worked quite hard on that, so I'm glad to see that's been.
Other issues we asked to be looked into and report back on, we were asked at the last meeting about the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. We did get a hard copy as an appendix, as people see and read this. Has anybody got any comments on what was put in the report?
Can I ask what's happening to the St John's ambulance?
Sorry?
St John's ambulance building, it is coming up in the paper.
Which building?
I thought it was the building.
Well, you can find out for you and come back to you if you like. We wouldn't have it,
Yeah,
the information here.
we have no St John's ambulance people in the town now. They came from Ashford to the shopping forum, this Saturday, when we had the event in there, to look after the people, so they come from Ashford.
We can look into that, but again, I'll take the details and I'll get an update.
You put it up for sale, the ambulance, the St John's ambulance building. You don't know if it's built.
Not at the moment, but I can find out for you.
No. But I mean, we still do.
The other things we asked about was railways, or transport issues really. First of all was the railways. Jackie Davison asked and looked about whether we can do more with the railways in the area. Would you like to ask?
Yep, so I met with Mr. Davidson. He sent me a list of questions and we went through those. I'd sought advice from railway experts who advised me on what was the art of the possible. That doesn't mean some of them weren't possible, some of the things that he was suggesting, some of them were. But would require either Network Rail or South Eastern to be able to take action. They also explained to me why some of the things that he'd requested couldn't work, either that they'd been stopped due to low passenger numbers. The difficulty that we've got is, and this is where we're doing the joint forms, what Mr. Davison wants to understand is why people aren't using the trains. Now, how do you find that out? Because we can ask people at the station that they're using the trains. We can't ask them. We don't know what we don't know. So yes, I think you have an answer for me.
Well, the answer is, like was brought up earlier, between Swell and that, there is no anyone stopping, so you can jump on and off. And if they don't have passes, they're getting on the trains, causing a nuisance. Then when the train drivers come along, they're rude, they're disrespectful, and then that halts the trains up until the police come and sort it out. Or you have like adults jumping on the trains and causing a nuisance, drinking and that. So when you have a family like myself,
you don't want to take
you don't want it can be scary when I've got 6 kids, like with my partner, like not all mine. But when we're travelling and you've got that many kids and you've got all this hassle on the trains, it is scary. So we try and rely on the buses. But even then they can't be reliable. If you try and get a buggy on a bus, you can get 1 or 2 families on a bus with buggies. So,
I tried to get a double buggy on the bus the other day, and it wasn't a happy experience.
I had to use buses quite often, and buses, they're not very good for buggies, but the trains not very safe for the children either.
No. So, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons that certainly the Sheerness to Sittingbourne branch. There is also, is it's too expensive for the tickets, is it that, you know, they're not. So what we've got to do is, they are.
Take a family day up to go to the beach, and she just does the road.
So what we've got to do is, we're talking to, Mr Davison has asked me to talk to a gentleman called John Noden. Some of you might know John, that he lives on the island. He used to be a reporter on KM. And so, he's going to put his mind to how we can find out. We have passenger numbers, so we've got passenger numbers from South Eastern, so we know how many people. What we don't know, I know more now, but what, you know, there is the thing about why don't more people use the train for commuting? Is it because people just aren't travelling to work anymore? So that's the update on that.
I read in the paper that they're doing away with return tickets.
No, they're not. Yeah,
They're not going to do that now. Oh, well, that's good.
That is good.
Because that's what you do, because you've got to come back, haven't you? And then making people pay 2 cents, which is zero.
Yeah, no, you can still get returned.
Oh, that's good.
It's just about doing it safer, that's all.
Yeah.
Moving on, in other item on transport issues, we were looking at the bus service. We were aiming to invite other representatives from not just the buses, but from the trains. Have we had any feedback yet?
I'm aiming to do that, for the next meeting. We didn't do it this meeting because we knew we had the police coming and just felt it was too much for one evening. So that's something I work towards to get through the meeting.
I owe the committee an apology because I haven't written a letter I said I would do, simply because I can't find out who we need to be contacting directly to get that done, which I'll put some more effort into finding. And the final one on the transport is regarding the bus forum. Who wants to carry it, or Tony, who wants to?
Yeah, I don't mind. So, I won't stand up because I'm short enough as it is. So I've attended 2 bus forum meetings since our last area committee. We have representatives of Stagecoach and Chalkwell that attend, as well as KCC. And it discusses quite a few issues that are coming up with the buses. So I'll give you a few highlights, so to speak. So we know there's problems with bus shelters. We know there's problems with Bell Road, with queuing for the school buses, and they're looking at perhaps having bus stands there. But I think they're going to have to come to the council for consultation on that. Obviously, the £2 bus ticket is now gone. It's now a £3 bus ticket. There's also day tickets and week tickets. They're trying to do things to make it, try and encourage more people onto the buses. The buses at the bus hub are getting parking tickets, which they're not very happy about, but, you know, park properly. And of course, there's reduction of the X3 service, and that's due to lack of people using it, but that's more to do with the Faversham end. We had an emergency bus forum meeting last week, I think it was, wasn't it, Tony?
Last week.
Where we were informed of the grant that they've been given from the government. They've been given £12 million capital grant. This is KCC, not Chalkwell and Stagecoach, and a 10 million revenue funding. Obviously, the KCC have told us they've got, you know, they need the revenue funding because they just can't afford it anymore. It's too much to pay out. So the obligations on the revenue funding are shored up with what they're doing. What they are looking at is the travel saver costs and trying to make it, as I said, cheaper for people to travel. The fun bit is the what we've got coming with the capital grant, which is £12 million, and they are looking at what they can do around projects in Kent, but especially, obviously, we were looking at projects at Swale. So they are looking at having a district bus shelter scheme where they're going to give grants to people so that bus shelters are fixed. Now, we'd all say, just fix them. So they've got the money there. So we need to be telling, this is as councillors and as residents, residents need to tell the councillors, and then we need to tell KCC of bus shelters that we know need work doing to them. So I think they want to try and make that more localised and perhaps get the parish councils involved in it. Another thing they want to do is looking at real-time information at bus stops. So I think we've all been there waiting for a bus and wondering what on earth when it's turning up. You get your paper timetable, but it never equates to when it turns up. So they are looking at doing real-time bus information. They're looking at QR codes at bus stops as well. They're also looking at tap in, tap out, like they have in London. So you tap in, tap out for hopefully then you get a cheaper bus fare. They're looking at air quality, and especially with the A2, looking at ways that they can improve the air quality with the buses. Perhaps changing some of the vehicles to electric vehicles, which I think we'd all agree would be better. Something that intrigued me was they were looking at a system that would link in with traffic lights. So when they know a bus is delayed, the traffic light will change so that bus can get through quicker. I wait to see that happening. It'll be quite interesting. But they are looking at the A2 on that as well. So there's a few issues there that they are definitely looking at around us. So there's lots of good stuff coming. It's just trying to make sure that we get the best of the good stuff that's coming. So Tony asked about when we were talking about services, we all know we'd love the services to be extended into the evenings. We'd love the services at weekends. Where I live over on Grove Park Estate. We get buses Monday to Friday, one an hour, and they finish at 5. So we'd love there to be buses at weekends, but we've been told it isn't financially viable. So all I would say is we need to encourage more people to use the buses. The more they get used, perhaps we'll then get a more reliable service. So that would be great if we can do that. The bus companies, Chalkwell and Sittingbourne, were more than happy to come to area committee. They did tell us that, they wouldn't lie, I'm sure. But yeah, so we need to look at areas that we think that could be improving the infrastructure, and this is something that they want to look at, infrastructure with the buses and the trains. So perhaps if we can think of anything that could link the two, they could perhaps use some of this grant on that's burning a hole in KCC's pocket at the moment, that the government has given them. We need to be looking at things that are going to do the best for our residents, especially in Sittingbourne. We all know how busy that bus hub gets. I'd like it to get even busier. Perhaps be going out to wild places that perhaps we don't go to, like Bobbin Highway. So that's about, I don't think I've lifted anything out, but
I was just going to say, I think covered everything on the notes I've made. You mentioned the fact that I did bring up to see if we could get a Sunday service between Sunday 10 and 4, Sunday trade and extension. And they said that even with the open funding that the government has given, I couldn't quite believe the cost they came up with, but they said to put an extra service on, say in the evening, say not on top, you mean an extra crew coming on and a bit more wear and tear on the bus, it would cost 250,000 per hour to do it, which I wouldn't personally believe it. There again, we're in no position to argue against them as such, but I think it's something that us from the bus group will keep pushing for. There is the demand, especially now we've got the night economy growing in Sittingbourne, especially on a Friday and Saturday night. But now you've come in.
I think we need to look at the accessibility as well, especially I know what it's like trying to get a into a bus. Short of using the child for origami practice, you're not going to get it on there. So we need to perhaps be looking at different ways, but I think it's going to be a case of use it or lose it. If we use those buses, or we're gonna lose them.
So,
It's not good.
She said, the buses and the train company come together would be so much fun. To, William Zoo or something, you're paying for the train, then you're paying for the bus. But if you could get one ticket, a nice cheap ticket that does the train and the buses, more families, it would make more sense.
I would just say that's what we've become aware of on this committee, that the train and bus companies aren't talking, and we're trying to get them to do that. We can't force them, but we just need a better flow of information and people to think about what's going on.
There's families out there, then that would get the kids off the street as well, because their families should be able to take them to other places and affordable. At the moment, it's just not.
Take that.
Yeah, I think we sort of, one of the points at the previous area committee about how, and hopefully devolution coming down the line, actually, we could see some greater integration of the two, because also a lot of bus services don't line up with the train times deliberately. So then you end up with a lot of hanging around. If you need to get the bus to then catch a train, they deliberately don't line them up, especially if the route is something where it's a competing route. They do that because they want you to use one service or the other. They don't want to help each other out. And there needs to be something done to line those up to make that better for people. But also going back to Tony and Karen's point about, you know, extending the availability of buses and making them more user friendly. It's a bit chicken and egg, I think, in some of this, because fewer people use the buses because they're not convenient. So then they cut them back further and then they become even less convenient for people. I think there are a lot of people who look at the traffic situation in Sittingbourne who would quite gladly bypass some of that traffic if there was a decent bus service that would allow them to get about and do their business. You know, there are people in Kemsley, for example, that would like there to be a bus service that goes past Asda because they need to get their shopping home. They have to get a taxi, and there is no bus that goes past that main supermarket any longer for them. Stuff like that really does need to be revisited to make it a more user-friendly service that will drive people to actually look at doing that rather than getting in a car or having to fork out for a taxi.
But may I just say one thing? I was talking about Auntie Anne and about having, because she's over 70 now, she's having to review a driving licence. And she said, I hope I don't have to give up my car because when I will get to do my shopping because she lived in Bolton. And there's no buses in Bolton now. So how, if she has to give up her car, how is she going to get to do her shopping? Because the only shop in Bolton is closed. And she's got to come into Sittingbourne to do her shopping. And they stopped all these local buses going around. Well, couldn't they just do, say, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon? That would have to be every half an hour or every hour, but at least 1 or 2 a day. So they could come in, say 10 o'clock in the morning and go back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But they just, it's non-existent. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That is a problem, isn't it?
Is there any other comments regarding the bus service that we've done? Thank you for you, Karen and Tony, for your.
The other part we have, Geraldine Street, there's a little place in the corner there, who's been laid down in this street. There's a little place where you can put in your cars there, but you've got to do it on an app. You can't just put parking in the parking meter like you take the parking meter away, you've got to do it on your phone on an app. I haven't got that on my phone. No, my sister hasn't got it on her phone. So she's not going to be able to park there to go to the parking capital because she can't get access to the parking area. And we came back from Whitstable and we came through Seasalter and I wanted to stop. And we couldn't stop there because they've got the same things there. And on Seasalter there, they put these parking meters, they've got to do it on an app. So I'm going to stop.
Moving on to the next item, which is the public forum, would be quite useful for us to take some of your suggestions away. As I'm aware, we're not within Swale looking to have an fully automated system. There still will be cash points in our car parks going forward.
Not one on that little car park there.
Which one's that?
The one about the gas, it's got that one. That's there for people parking, yeah. I don't know, but.
Is there any other questions from the public? Anybody wants to ask anything?
Well, it's in your car park.
As members, item 10, has members got any questions? No.
I want to make an announcement.
Go on, carry on.
The media centre will be closing on 4th of April. The museum is open this Saturday, but will be closing thereafter. We're looking for another venue. And various people who are using the media centre, like ideas, people like that, are looking for venues. And we've got clubs that are using it, and we have luckily found a few venues that we'll be moving to. And if people are starting to keep in touch with us who are using the centre,
Can I ask what the reason why you've had to close?
sorry?
Can I ask why you've had to close?
The landlords, I'm not knocking the council, won't give us a lease long enough that we can use to get funding. They want at least 5 years. And it's worked so far. I mean, 4 years we've been there, and I'm very happy 4 years. I think we've done a lot for the high street, with the gallery. And upstairs, we've had various events that have got been very successful. A lot of people, you'll see write-ups and Facebook notices. We've had a lot of support, and various people are sorry, we're closing. As an originator of it, I'm pleased that I can have a relaxing time. Finding volunteers is very difficult.
I can imagine, but sorry to hear that you're closing.
Sorry?
I'm sorry to hear that you're closing.
A lot of people are.
Yes, we all are, because we all use it, it's very important part of the town. So I think the council should try and help us to stay open. No, but it's good, don't they? Like that.
And finally, item 11, is anything from the service committees? There's nothing feedback from the service committees. At that point, I will, at 20:40, make the meeting close. Thank you.
What are you going to say that evening?
One second.
Thank you.